Hello everyone, I'm Father Aaron. Welcome to
The Dungeon Minister!
Craft Edition. Today, we're going to take a look at a craft that I had an inspiration for, and we'll see if I can make it work. The inspiration came from this. Well, not from the water bottle. It's a high-end water bottle, I gather. Nothing that I would buy in the store, but our parish is having a rummage sale soon. People are beginning to drop items off, and someone brought in this water bottle in this strange tube. So I figured for a few bucks. One of the advantages of being the priest is you get to pre-shop the parish rummage sale. So for a few bucks, sure. I was interested in the water bottle. It's a perfectly good water bottle, but I was also interested in the tube. I looked at this and I thought, well, doesn't that look like a scroll case? Huh. So I decided I was going to make a scroll case out of this tube, and I decided I might as well make a video about it in the meantime to share how it worked out and as a craft idea. Then I thought, well, wait. Not everyone has one of these. Not everyone is going to go out and find a swell water bottle at a rummage sale. So, and I don't know how much these cost retail, probably a bit. So, maybe that wouldn't be kind of a niche thing, right? And other people wouldn't be able to replicate it. But then I realized what everyone does have. Toilet paper. Well, and paper towel. Tubes from toilet paper and paper towel. Everyone's got these, right? I mean, I am reliably informed that everyone poops. It's really funny, Anyhow, so anyone could make this who's got some paper toweling tubes and toilet paper tubes laying around. I found that, again, it depends on the tubes you're using. This is sort of standard, I imagine. I don't know if there's an industry standard, but it's the size we generally get. And that the toilet paper that the church gets happens to, the tube just happens to fit over the, oh, that's got a bit of a snarl on it, just happens to fit over that nicely. And that would make a nice cap for the tube, right? I thought I would do a craft making a scroll case out of this, so maybe I'll make one or two out of different tubes. I also have slightly bigger around than the ones we have at home. These are the paper towels here at the church. I have an inside scoop on two sources of tubes. They're much, much bigger, so it really wouldn't be useful as a cap or anything. Well, enough yapping. Let's get crafting. So the first thing I needed to do was cap the ends, and it turned out that these little wooden discs, MDF or whatever they are, that you get at craft stores were just right. Now the white tubes are a bit bigger in diameter, but you can see there's already some hot glue in there. I had tried cutting out a circle out of cardboard. You can see the cardboard over on the cutting board there. It didn't work, it was too floppy, but with the extra hot glue that was already in there, it fit perfectly. And the circles were just right for the paper towel tubes. Now, I'm using that standard school bathroom paper toweling to wrap it, primarily to cover up the sort of swirl lines of the wrap of the cardboard tube, but also to add texture, because I wanted to get some puckering in there, some nice textures. To glue it down, I started with PVA, your basic white glue. I don't know that I really needed to use this. I could have gone straight to the watered down PVA, but I just decided to start with a more firm stick here, tackier glue. And then it's just a process of rolling it up. Now at first I rolled it too tight. I did two of these. And the first one I did, I rolled too tight. you'll actually want to, if you do this, you'll actually want to leave it a little loose because you want the paper toweling to pucker. And you'll see why later on. I did it really quickly. And you soak it, just absolutely soak the paper towel in. On the ends, I wanted to tuck the ends into the tube so that the impression of it being leather would go down the tube a bit. You really can't see from this angle. But then on the top, of the bottom end of it, I kind of wrapped it up like a Christmas present. It did much the same thing with the cap. Cutting away the paper I didn't need. Again, soak it, soak it, soak it. And I did not tuck the paper into the cap because I knew it needed to slide. And you see here, you can see this sort of just folding it over the way you would the end of a Christmas present in a way. I'm going to cover those up later, so I'm not too worried about what they look like. But I did want it to be nice and flat. And just touching it up, covering down the seams so that it doesn't stick up, and creating some of those wrinkles, that puckering. Ugh, gluey. That took a while to dry, so I watched some videos and did some other stuff, and then came back for the painting. Now I'm using your standard craft store painting, a color called cinnamon brown. I liked it because it's kind of warm. But when I started out, it was too light. It was just too light, too bright. Now I get the painting done on it, and I slather it all over. Again, let it soak in. You got paper towel in there. It'll take a lot of paint. I didn't like it that much, but well, you'll see what I did. When it came to the second one, I was starting, and then I thought, no, I don't like it. It's too bright. So I thought I'd just add some black. A few drops, not too much, just to darken it. I didn't want to make it too dark. Just enough to darken it down a bit, though. And the result is a lot more pleasing. Now, the one I'm painting here, it's the second one I made, and it ends up being the one I like the most, I think. I got it all painted up. All right. That took a while to dry, so I came back the next night. Now, you see the darker one looks a lot more puckered. That is actually the one with less texture. This one, the lighter one, has more texture on it, but it doesn't show up because the colors are so light. So I decided I'm going to go back over it, but add yet more black to the paint. That's the same watered down, it's a watered down cinnamon brown paint that I'm working with. So I add a bit more black to it, which does two things. One, it thickens the paint a little bit, but also, again, obviously it darkens it. And as I paint this, you can see the texture coming out. All of the ripples, the wrinkles, the puckering in the fabric, in the paper toweling. It really comes out as I paint this thing. And ends up actually being darker than the first one I painted, with 2 coats of paint on it. Now, I wanted there to still be some light places, so I dabbed off excess, and it ended up with this really nice mottled look. Ah, the big one. This one ended up, well, you'll see at the end, it didn't turn out as well as I'd hoped. Even though this is what inspired the whole project, it really didn't turn out. Of course, if I ever complete it, and I intended to, as I intended to do when I was creating this, I was going to paint the inside of it, and if I go back to this, I will paint the inside a dark brown or something. Mix up a little more of the glue, because I really was going through a great deal of watered down glue, just slathering it on. The problem I'm having here is I'm just not getting it puckered enough. I'm not making enough wrinkles. And it just doesn't look interesting without them. Ugh, what a mess. Setting that aside, the cap. Now this I decided I was going to actually do in 2 sections, because I didn't want to pull off a whole length of it, because I was getting the impression already from the bottom that it probably wasn't worth pursuing. So as I wrapped this, I thought, oh, I'll just piece 2 things together. There'll be 2 seams instead of 1, that's no big deal. And again, I tucked the toweling inside of the cap, and that turned out to be a bad idea. I didn't have a disc large enough for this one, but they do sell them. They do sell larger discs. All right, later that night, that paint does not take long to dry. It's one of the great advantages of craft paint. It dries very quickly. I go to fit the cap, and it's just too tight. It's just too tight. And I'm looking at the thing once I do shove it on there. It's a long, long cap. It doesn't need to be that long. So I'm going to cut it down right there. I'm going to get it about that long. Yeah, that'll do. That'll do right there. Right there. I pointed several times because I knew this would be on camera. At first I thought I would cut all the way around with the knife, but then I realized no, just make a slit and go in with the scissors. That will be a lot more even. It still wasn't perfectly even, but that's not important. It doesn't have to be machine perfect. It wouldn't. I'm replicating something also made by hand, so it doesn't have to be perfect. This slides on much easier, just by being shorter. Less distance in which it warps and twists. Now, I'm getting here a lighter color, so I'm going to do some dry brushing in a couple of stages. As I said, the first one was a cinnamon brown, darkened up with black. This one, what is it, maple. It's maple country, or country maple. Country maple. Whatever that means. It's like a Martha Stewart paint color or something. And this is a dry brush, but it's a slightly heavier dry brush. Although, interestingly, here on camera, it doesn't really show up very much. The end result does, and you'll be able to see it, I think, as I finish more than as I start here. It adds to the mottled effect, but it also begins to pick out some of those ridges, some of those highlights. And really starts to get a nice look to it. Then I go for golden brown. Craft Smart. What a great name. I don't even clean my brush. I don't bother. I'm just doing very light dry brushing. Looking good. And I wanted to make them fancy, just a little fancy, right? The ends obviously needed to be finished off because it just looked like folded paper, which is what it is. And because I'm going to put a cap on each end, I wanted to have some transition between things. And so I'm going to add a little bit of cord, first of all, to the bottom of the cap. And I thought that would look nice to sort of finish it off. You have to be careful with the hot glue here because you don't want globs of hot glue sticking out from underneath the cord. That doesn't look good. In hindsight, I probably should have left a big knot on it with some ends, because how was this actually attached, if not hot glue? Oh well. I wanted to cover up that seam where the two things joined up with a little medallion, and I thought copper. At first I thought silver, no, too shiny. The gold, no, that's too much. Copper would be about right. So I painted that up and left it to dry for a bit.
And then I also wanted to do caps, as I say, on the ends, also copper. Now I wanted a matching piece of twine, of cord, on the main tube, on the body of the tube, to match where the cap comes down. So here I'm just marking out where that would be and running the glue along it. And it's not a perfectly straight line, but again, it doesn't have to be. In fact, the fact that they are a little wobbly means that there's really only one way the cap sits perfectly. And the way it sits perfectly is when the medallion will cover up both of the joins in the twine. That's how I set it up. So that when it's closed, you can't see where the twine begins and ends. Again, that paint dries very fast, especially on wood. I'm running out of hot glue here. And I've got no more in the house, and it's like 11, no, actually it's probably like 1 in the morning. So I used a pencil to shove the hot glue down into the gun. Got the caps on. And then the medallion. Oop, catch that drip of hot glue and put it on up there. Medallion. Okay, got little strings off. Now, as I said, there really is only one way it perfectly matches because there's some slight, waviness in the line. But when that happens, the medallion covers up the join in both pieces of twine, which I thought was kind of tidy. And I thought if the medallion is there, it should be the sigil or the symbol of the sender. This should be an official thing. It could be from a magic user, it could be from anything. Here I am doing the nightingale of the halfling army. Now, the Mod Podge here is really just to give it some hardness, because it really is just a cardboard tube, some paper toweling, and paint and glue. So a bit more protection, just not to protect really, but to stiffen it up a little bit is going to help. I actually end up putting 2 coats on. I only show myself putting on 1 coat because why do you need to watch me do it twice? You don't. And that's about it.
Okay, this is what you end up with. Well, almost end up with. I figured this would be the end product, but then I looked at it today and I thought, I want to put some of this twine around the end to mask the transition between the tube and the cap. It just looks a little raw. So I want to add the twine on there. I'm going to do that. But otherwise, it is quite a nice little prop. It really work really well if you do props in your game, right? If you're going to give your characters an important message, right, from some high official, or they discover a magical scroll or something. Not your average magical scroll, but something of importance, right? You really want to draw attention to it. This would be a cool way. You describe it in the game and then hand that to your players and they can uncork it themselves. There's a scroll in here. Lorem ipsum. Oh, it's a magical spell. I'm a cleric. Can't use it. Anyhow, this is what I did, and guys, I'm going to add the twine to the top and bottom, and I'll use that for the glamour shots at the end. Now, the tube that started it all, the water bottle tube, first of all, the paper toweling got too smooth on it. There's not enough puckering. The puckers are really what makes it look cool. I know leather probably wouldn't really do that, but it looks neat. And it just wasn't enough. It was too smooth. So I think I will wet this, reactivate the glue, and sort of, massage it to get some puckers in, if that works. Or I can just add another layer to it. The other thing is, of course I covered the cap and I put it down into the interior. And I covered all the way up here, and now it was apparently a tighter fit than I knew, because it really won't go on. It's really, too tight. So I'm going to have to take this paper off of the inside. I want to redo this too because there's not enough puckers there. And I want to go around and strip the paper down here, and then I'll just paint that a dark brown or something, so that the lid will go back on. And I've got to find a disc to go in here and on the bottom. They do sell the larger wooden discs, just like the ones I used here, but big. And I think those will fit. It needs something though, because that doesn't look good. It looks like you've wrapped a bottle of wine for a Christmas present or something, right? So I'm going to do this. This is the thing that started it all, and it ends up to sort of be an afterthought, because this is the right size, and I really think it turned out really well. If you're doing a game and you give your players a scroll, you describe the whole thing, and you tell them about it, and then you hand them this, and they can open it up and check it out. So anyhow, that is the craft, and we'll just go in for the glamour shots, should we? Yeah. Going for the glamour shots. Not of me! Guys, really?
Sorry. Me thought you want glamour shot.
Yeah, not of me.
Don't worry about it. He's always complaining about the way things run around here. Yeah, he's just a big old complainer.
Hey, look, what am I paying you guys for, right? I'm paying you to run the video, run the sound. Well, yeah. Yeah, they get a little bit. I thought you did it for the love of... Oh. Roll the beautiful bean footage.